Welcome to Champion Minded, the podcast for those who aim for excellence, not only in the sports arena, but in life. My name is Allistair, author, speaker, mindset and performance coach, and my goal is to help you unleash your unlimited potential and provide you with the tools to achieve greatness. Are you ready to become champion minded? Then let's do this. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Champion Minded podcast. I am Allistair and great to have you along with me this week. In this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about prepareadiness. And you're probably saying right now, what on earth is prepareadiness? Well, prepareadiness is the preparation you have up until the competition. It usually takes place on the day of the competition. And getting ready for the event or getting ready for the match, the race, whatever it may be, whatever sport you partake in. But so often I've realized over the years and noticed this over the years that athletes prepare well. They have a great training block, they have a great week, they have a great few days leading up to the competition. But on the day, nerves take over, or not being in total control of their structure or their routine of that day starts to take over. And this is something so important because you can be so prepared, you could have trained super hard, you could have had a great lead up to the day, but you let things go a little bit haywire on the day of your competition. So preparedness usually involves the build up to the competition, so especially that hour before. The champion-minded athletes I work with all have a set routine an hour before they go out and compete, or they go race, or they go play, or whatever event or whatever sport they're in. But do you have a set routine an hour before you go out and compete? And here's the thing, it works differently for different people. I've worked with athletes that like to have complete silence. They like to have no one around them. They maybe like to read a book or be alone. That's fine. If that's what works for you, then perfect. And then on the other hand, I've had athletes who like to listen to music, or they like to be surrounded by people, like to have a little bit of distraction so they don't maybe think about the event or think about the competition. But the important thing in your preparedness routine is to find out what works for you and then stick to it. If we look at top athletes, we look at Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer, we look at Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One driver. We look at even Richie McCaw, the New Zealand rugby player. They all had set routines before they went out to compete. And, it's individual. So if I can give you an example, one particular squash player I worked with, who was actually the top 3 in the world, he liked to have a countdown an hour before going out to compete. So, for example, 60 minutes before, he'd like to have a shower. 50 minutes before, he'd like to change into his clothes, his particular match clothes. 40 minutes before, he'd like to check his equipment, make sure the strings, the grips, everything was right in his equipment. 30 minutes before, maybe just go over some match notes or speaking with his coach. And then 20 minutes before, he'd like to warm up. So he had a countdown. That is what I mean by a preparedness routine. And if you don't have one, if you don't have a set one, then I really encourage you to sit down, pen to paper, and write down what works for you before going out to compete. And you know what? It might take a few matches, or it might take a few events for you to discover what works for you. But when you're able to put yourself into a structure and routine, the benefits is that it gets rid of those nerves. I mean, nerves are always good. You're always going to have nerves. In fact, if you don't have nerves, worry, because then it means what you're doing doesn't really mean that much to you. So nerves are good. However, your ability to control them. When things are sporadic, when you're one day warming up a certain way and then the next day changing it up, your body doesn't recognize a pattern. And by having a preparedness routine, it recognizes consistency, it recognizes a pattern, and it doesn't create anxiety. So that's the importance of having a preparedness routine. On the same subject, what about competition day? If I can share with you the athletes I consult at a very, very high level, they like to have the same type of day. The time they wake up, They like to have the same breakfast. They don't change any foods. And in fact, most of them travel with their own foods that work for them. So if it's oatmeal or particular energy bars or particular products, they travel with them. They don't expect the hotel or restaurant or the facility to have them. They travel with them. That's another champion-minded trait, taking care of the small details. They also like to arrive at the location where they might be competing at a particular time, be it 1 hour before, be it 2 hours before. But they believe that preparation is the key to their success, and they have routines. So message today, athletes out there, if you don't have a set routine, I recommend that you sit down, write it out, see what works for you. It could be heavy metal music, it could be meditation, whatever it is, find what works for you, stick to it, and get out there and be champion-minded. So that's it, another episode in the bag. Thank you so much for joining me this week. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends, teammates, family, fellow coaches, anyone who might benefit from this message and who wants to create excellence in their lives. Also, get on over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave a review. Thank you so much to those who have done that already. I appreciate it. I'm also on the YouTube channel of Champion Minded Podcast. And if you want to connect on social media, I'm at Twitter at Allistair McCall, Instagram Be Champion Minded, Facebook McCall Method, and if you want to send me an email, suggestions, feedback, whatever's on your mind, you can do that at mccallmethod@aol.com. Also, a big thank you to all of you who share the message on social media under the hashtag ChampionMinded. I love seeing your photos, love seeing your quotes and your feedback. And please share the message. Remember, you were meant for greatness, so go out and do the work. Until next time, stay champion-minded, my friends.